Yo, 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 what up, y'all? It's your boy Rob coming back at you once again with another members only live. So before we get started, you already know what to do. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Smash the like button, share this video out to all of your followers, even though they ain't gonna be able to watch it, because after this stream is over, it's going on members only. All right. And let's get some acknowledgments to the members in the building early. All right. So we got my man Lloyd Sky Nines in the building. We got Jay Bird in the house. We got my man Al McGowan. And we got my man John Guillory with the $2 super chat. So shout out to everybody who is in here. Make sure you guys show some love. Throw some radiation emoji in the chat for my man John Guillory with the $2 super chat. And remember, the membership is so cheap on the channel that super chat that John Guillory just gave could be 2 members. You know what I'm saying? So keep that in mind. The membership is really affordable. You know what I'm saying? So what we're going to be talking about are reparations. We're also going to be talking about some psychological patterns. All right. And we're going to do that by looking at some articles. All right. And the first article that we're going to look at is an article from Politico where Ron DeSantis is big mad. He's lashing out at the audience over the Jacksonville shooting. Now, how many people have heard about this? If you guys heard about this, give me a thumbs up in the comment section. If you guys did not hear about this, then give me a thumbs down. All right. DeSantis lashes out at audience member over Jacksonville shooting. So this is what he does. He flips out, yells, "That is such nonsense," DeSantis yelled at an audience member who blamed his policies for the shooting. Man, these people get mad when they get exposed, don't they? Let's check this out and see exactly what went on here. See, so we got to run through this commercial real quick. We got about 11 seconds. Smash that like button. Hit that bell icon twice if you're not subscribed. If you are subscribed and you're not a member and you want to be able to chat, you get a free super chat with the membership. You know what I'm saying? So let's see Ron DeSantis. Look at him. He's really happy about this. Really happy.
So I'm here today because I'm one of the Americans who do not agree with all the policies. I feel that you have enacted policies that hurt people like myself, people that I love, the men and women who are my children. You have allowed weapons to be put on the street as immature, hateful people that have caused the deaths of the people who were murdered a couple weeks ago.
Now, let me ask you guys a question. Ron DeSantis claims that he's a culture warrior, right? He's going to war against the cultures of other people. So if he's putting into place policies that embolden people who are soldiers in his culture war to delete people from those other cultures that he doesn't seem to really appreciate because he feels that they're having a negative effect on the United States, then he should get behind that and say, yeah, I absolutely did it. I'll do it again, right? So now my question is, why does he get so triggered when he's called into account on the effects of not only his policies, of his rhetoric? Why is he so big mad? Why can't he handle it? He's a big boy, right? Can he handle it?
So first of all, I did not allow anything with that. Well, listen, excuse me. I'm not going to let you accuse me of committing criminal activity.
You don't have a choice in the matter, Ron DeSantis. You absolutely committed criminal activity. Let me ask you guys a question. Did Ron DeSantis commit criminal activity? If he did, give me a thumbs up. If he didn't, then give me a thumbs down. You need to stand behind your work. Like the great Neely Fuller Jr. said, stand behind your work, homeboy. You said that Florida is where black people go to die because you've been coding the word woke as black people. So since you emboldened Florida residents to delete black people in the name of woke, you absolutely are an accomplice to that.
I am not going to take that. I am not going to take that. So
you are going to take it. You're going to take it. You're going to take it sideways down your throat.
You want to have a civil conversation, that's one thing. Try to say that I'm letting, that guy was Baker acted. he should have been ruled ineligible, but they didn't involuntarily commit him.
Your gun laws allowed him to supersede the Baker Act and to get that gun. Punk. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he's sassy, isn't he, Torian? Look at him. He's sassy to the motherfucker. Look at him waving that finger. Oh, no. Oh. I'm not going to let... Look at that. Get your screenshots right there. Oh, no. The way he looking and waving that finger look like he about to go order a sex on the beach, you know what I'm saying, at a rainbow bar, doesn't it?
I am not going to take that. I am not going to take that. So you want to have a civil conversation, that's one thing. Try to say that I'm letting, that guy was Baker.
The way he's waving that finger look like he about to go order a double shot of chocolate donut hole at a rainbow bar, doesn't it?
He should have been ruled ineligible, but they didn't involuntarily commit him, and so they weren't. No, I don't. No. There is the truth. There is something.
No. Oh, he doesn't like that. He doesn't like that. Listen, homeboy, you don't paint reality. Reality paints you. Yeah, he does. He has a little bit of a lisp. I guarantee you that his wife has some devices that she uses on him.
No, I don't. No. There is the truth. There is something about the truth. It's not everyone doesn't have their own truth. No.
And the truth is, Ron DeSantis, you're a culture warrior in your self-proclaimed culture war. And your culture war is a war against our culture. And you've emboldened your soldiers in your culture war to do whatever they want to. And now you're being held accountable for it, and you don't like it. Now, what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to pay very close attention, because Ron DeSantis is ultimately responsible for Florida, is he not? Let's take a tally on that. Is Ron DeSantis accountable for what goes on in Florida? If he is, then give me a thumbs up. If he isn't, then give me a thumbs down. Being that you're ultimately responsible for what goes on in Florida, as well as for the safety of Floridians, when you embolden other Floridians to harm other Floridians based on their culture, you're partially responsible for the harm that comes to those people. So now what I find fascinating is that this high IQ, impulse control individual is not able to handle answering this question professionally. He starts screaming, yelling, getting sassy, waving his fingers, bobbing his head, flipping his bangs back. Did you guys see how he flipped his bangs back with authority? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, 2 snaps and a twist. You know what I'm saying? Men unwoke. And he's all out of pocket and all out of character. And while he's being uncivilized, he's upset with the individual and saying that the individual is the one that needs to have a civil conversation with him. Unbelievable. Actually, very believable. But anyway.
Don't get to come here and blame me for some madman. That is not.
You're the governor. It's your job to protect. You wanted to be the big man. Now you're dealing with big man responsibilities. Suck it up, Buttercup.
Not appropriate, and I'm not going to accept it. Oh, that is nonsense. That is such nonsense.
Oh, that is nonsense. Well, then why is it nonsense, Ron? You're a proud culture warrior. And your culture war is against my culture. Now, if you're waging a war, wars have casualties. Now you have to account for casualty in your culture war. Let me ask you guys a question. Are the 3 Floridians, the 3 black Floridians who died as a result of an individual who follows Ron DeSantis' ideologies, are they casualties of the culture war? If they are, give me a thumbs up. If they're not, give me a thumbs down.
We've done more We've done more to support law enforcement in this state than.
And that guy wears the same uniform as law enforcement. For some reason, all of the anti-black shooters all wear the uniform. So you saying that law enforcement, you giving this take with law enforcement, that doesn't do anything. And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys haven't smashed that like button, please take a moment. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Also, if you guys haven't hit the bell, make sure you guys hit that bell.
Anybody in throughout the United States, our crime rate in Florida is at a 50-year low.
So I want you guys to pay very close attention. Ron DeSantis is not addressing the issue at all. He's talking about crime rates. The journalist here is talking about anti-black policies and anti-black rhetoric. And Ron DeSantis is knowingly, willingly, and cowardly avoiding the topic at hand. So now here it says Republican Governor Ron DeSantis got into a heated argument during a press conference on Thursday with an audience member who blamed him for a recent racially motivated mass shooting that left 3 black people dead. He is absolutely, ultimately to blame. He should be getting the exact same sentence as a matter of fact, since the coward that deleted those 3 black people deleted himself, as Ron DeSantis should be tried in his place, and he should do the sentence for that individual. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about that? I'm fully in support of that. If you guys fully support that suggestion, then give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't, give me a thumbs down. You don't get to come here and blame me for some madman, DeSantis said, raising his voice and becoming visibly angry. That is not appropriate, and I'm not going to accept it. Oh, you accepted it. You didn't accept it. None of your race soldiers were in attendance there to put a bullet in the audience member. So you definitely accepted it. Didn't taste good, did it? Did you wash your mouth out with soap after you got done? DeSantis' team has been defensive on social media and in news articles following similar accusations from state Democrats, black leaders, and the White House after a white gunman initially targeted a historically black college and then committed the murders in a nearby store in Jacksonville, Florida, before deleting himself. So I want you guys, let's just break this down. Let's just talk about what this killer did, shall we? First of all, the killer committed a hate crime. Then he committed a white-on-white crime. Because if a white man deletes himself, that's a white man committing crime against a white person. So he committed white-on-white crime after he committed a hate crime. This dude is just all kinds of degenerate. And Ron DeSantis doesn't want to answer for his part in manufacturing a Florida population that is representative of this mass shooter. That's nobody's problem but yours, Ron. It's not ours. You know what I'm saying? Thursday's argument became particularly heated when the audience member, who was unidentified, accused DeSantis of allowing people to hunt people like me. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Do you all agree with the audience member? If you guys agree with this audience member, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, then give me a thumbs down. Oh, that's nonsense. That is such nonsense, DeSantis yelled back during the press conference, which took place in Jacksonville. He then touted his record on law enforcement and his bonuses for police officers who moved to the state. What does that have to do with stopping anti-black crimes and anti-black rhetoric? As a matter of fact, those police officers many times delete black people in the same fashion that the mass shooters do. The roughly 3-minute exchange initially started out cordial, with both men thanking each other for their military service. The man, who wasn't pictured in the video, but according to the governor's office was standing in the back near the journalists, accused the governor of backing policies that hurt people like myself and said, "Weapons go to hateful people." Now, here's my thing. Policies that hurt people like himself. The black individual in the crowd who asked Ron DeSantis this question is a black individual living in a state that has a legacy of race massacres. And Ron DeSantis is somebody who has said on record, if we don't learn history, we're bound to repeat it. And he's working on deleting the history of those race massacres out of schools. Ron DeSantis is directly responsible for what happened to those individuals. He then raised the mass shooting, but DeSantis stopped him and shot back. I'm not going to let you accuse me of committing criminal activity. I'm not going to take that. Yeah, you are. Because you don't have the power to stop somebody from accusing you of criminal activity, especially criminal activity that you're guilty of. Ron DeSantis is a self-proclaimed culture warrior in a war against our culture. Ron DeSantis is a culture warrior in the war against black people. Would you guys agree or would you disagree? You wanted to wear that armor. Now wear it when impact is coming for you. The governor then raised the fact that the accused 21-year-old gunman, Ryan Palmeter, had a history of mental illness. Well, it was mental illness. Let me ask you guys a question. How many times do people who are mentally ill commit racially motivated crimes? There's entire facilities filled with mentally ill people, and none of the people at those facilities have committed racially motivated crimes. So now my question is, what does that have to do with it? And also, are mentally ill people not raised by their family? Where do most people, whether you're mentally ill or not, get their worldview from initially? Initially, most people who are mentally ill get their worldview from the people that they are in contact with first, which would be their families. Would you guys agree with that or would you disagree with that? If you agree with that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, then give me a thumbs down. Police reported he was involuntarily institutionalized for emergency mental health services as a teenager. He should have been ruled ineligible, DeSantis said. Okay, but under your gun laws, he was ruled eligible for a weapon. Now, let me ask you guys this question. Was Ron DeSantis gun laws stopping this individual from getting the weapon that he utilized to delete these people? I don't think so. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, before this incident took place, Ron DeSantis actually loosened the criteria of the gun laws. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that happened. Pretty sure that happened. But they didn't involuntarily commit him. As the man began to talk back, DeSantis interrupted him and said, "There is the truth. There is something about the truth. It's not everyone doesn't have their own truth." Right. So when are you going to listen to your own words, Ron DeSantis? Everyone doesn't have their own truth. The truth is that your rhetoric and your policies emboldened the people of Florida to support people doing what that individual did at that Dollar General. DeSantis didn't mention that Palmeter also had a racist manifesto and drew swastikas on his weapons. Now, here's my question. Why did Ron DeSantis leave that part out when he was getting sassy? Why did he leave that part out? See, that's the question. Democrats have similarly accused DeSantis of creating an environment in Florida that allowed the shooting to take place. So let's tackle that one. Is Ron DeSantis guilty of creating an environment in Florida that allowed the shooting to take place? If you ask me, of course he did. He took away the lessons about the race massacres that occurred in Florida, making people ignorant that Florida is a breeding ground for racism. As a result, history repeated itself. They specifically blame policies such as loosening gun laws and ending diversity programs, as well as his ban of what he calls critical race theory in schools, referring to progressive viewpoints on racial relations. And it's not progressive viewpoints on racial relations, because we're about to look at progressive viewpoints on racial relations tonight when we go talking about Jimmy Dore. He's banning Black history. Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you guys throw up some of those members only radiation emojis for my man Lloyd Sky 9 with the $10 super chat. Ron DeSantis is a criminal that emboldens white supremacist hate crimes, no different than Tucker Carlson. Blatantly, I might add. Whatever happened to the lawsuit the Buffalo victims filed? Facts. That's a good question. We got to dig into that. That's something that the Discord gang should dig into. We got to dig into that. We're going to look into that. Some Black Floridians jeered and booed DeSantis when he attended a vigil for the deceased, pledging security funding and telling the audience targeting people due to their race has no place in the state of Florida, despite the fact that the governor himself targets people based on their race. Shout out to TD Hip Hop Media, who utilizes YouTube chats to respond to text messages. You know what I'm saying? Gotta put TD on blast. You know what I'm saying? Gotta put TD on blast. Shout out to TD Hip Hop Media, you know what I'm saying, for utilizing the YouTube chats to respond to text messages. Throw some radiation emoji in the chat for that shit. Now, mind you, we're gonna take it back for a second. This is the dude that called me a Pookie. All right, that's what's up. You know what I'm saying? 12 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right, that's what's good. So now here it says, at the end of the press conference, Florida Surgeon General Joe Ladapo, who is Black, called on the audience to wait before exiting. With DeSantis standing next to him behind the lectern, he called the man who DeSantis argued with totally insane. Look at this. The Black dude. Do you guys see this? At the end of the press conference, Florida Surgeon General Joe Ladapo, who is Black, called on the audience to wait before exiting. With DeSantis standing next to him behind the lectern, he called the man who DeSantis argued with totally insane and praised DeSantis as a good man. Another Black man did this. Another Black man did this. It's terrible that people take advantage of the fact that he's a different color from the poor victims of that tragedy and try to tie him into it. Ladapo said, we got to keep an eye on this Florida Surgeon General named Joe Ladapo. This dude sounds like an ultimate Sambo. Unbelievable. And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, shout out to everybody that's watching. We got 40 people watching and we got 49 likes. If everybody can take a moment, smash that like button. If we got 100 likes on the members only, man, that's what's up. So yeah, so that's that. Updates to the Jacksonville Dollar General massacre, right? Now, you guys might ask the question, what does that have to do with this? The title. We will tell you what reparations are, not the other way around. What does that have to do with the title? What I just read. What it has to do with the title is we literally are looking at a race massacre where the perpetrator said that it was a race massacre. Yet Ron DeSantis is trying to call it something else and remedy it with things other than dealing with the race issues. Okay? And shout out to Maxwell Jenkins. Maxwell Jenkins should have some radiation emojis. If the members in the chat can type in and explain to Maxwell Jenkins how to access those Black Light Revelations radiation emojis, that would be great. So what we're going to look at next is we're going to look at this article here from The Guardian. And this article here is talking about slavery in the UK. Okay. It says slavery reaches into the heart of life in the UK. Now, here's my question. Why is that? Could that be because some people from the UK were slave owners? So now here's my question, and this is actually going to tie into what we're talking about tonight. This is going to tie into what we're talking about tonight. Why should people not talk about this in its entirety to preserve the feelings of white people? Why does this have to be spoken about in a special way? If you ask me, it doesn't. And I encourage and would like to embolden people to talk about this as bluntly as possible at all times. There is literally no reason for you to downplay your history, the reality of our circumstance here in this country, to appease anybody's feelings. Nobody's appeasing the actual damage that we're dealing with. Why do we have any responsibility to appease anybody's feelings? If you ask me, we don't. Shout out to Val and shout out to Brooklyn Queen. And shout out to Carla. What's good with y'all? Okay. So now here it says Britain should come clean about the illustrious historical figures in its citizenship test, writes Arthur Cunha, and other readers reflect on an uncomfortable legacy. Now, here's my question. The concern in this article is that this legacy is uncomfortable. But what I find fascinating is that they're more concerned with how uncomfortable it is for white people talking about it than it is for black people to recover from it. Anytime we talk about the comfortability of slavery, it's always in terms about how it makes white people to feel to talk about it, and never about how it creates or contributes to the circumstances that we deal with here in the United States today. Now, here's my question. Why is that? So now here it says, I'm a Brazilian national living in the UK, and I'm currently going through the citizenship application process. I recently had to take the life in the UK test, and in my opinion, it is the embodiment of the British people's resistance to coming to terms with the country's past. As Alex Renton said in his article, it makes people uncomfortable, typically white British people, but the avoidance of dealing with the matter makes the situation way more unbearable for people on the other side of the conversation. Let me ask you guys a question. Do you all agree with that statement? If you guys agree with that statement, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree with that statement, then give me a thumbs down. Me personally, I absolutely agree with that statement. I absolutely agree with that statement. If you ask me, we can't get anything done here in the United States as a result of the issues that we automatically run to, or the issues that we automatically run into when simply dealing with the legacy of racism. There's automatic barriers and issues that are not able to get addressed as a result of all of this. So now here it says, in my preparations for the test, I had to memorize the names of illustrious historical figures who, in fact, supported and profited from slavery. Sounds like the founding fathers of the United States. We're supposed to praise these individuals like they did something to help us. Let me ask you guys a question for the religious people in the building. Does that sound very similar to worshiping false gods? Why would you worship the ancestors of people who have done nothing but harm you and developed a global hatred for you? Why would anybody in their right mind do that? Why would anybody in their right mind think that that would be normal for somebody to do? Just marinate on that. Just marinate on that question. I am forced to learn about them as the heroes of Britain. The heroes. If the people that deleted your ancestors and the people that currently hate you are looked at as the heroes, you guys already know. Go ahead and finish the sentence. You know what you got to do. If the heroes are the people who are attempting to exterminate you, then in order to survive, what is your only option? And this is what I'm saying. I didn't make this up. So when I tell people about embracing villainy, that's not coming out of anywhere. That's coming out of the world is correct. In my preparations for the test, I had to memorize the names of illustrious historical figures who, in fact, supported and profited from slavery. I'm forced to learn about them as the heroes of Britain, with nothing whatsoever about the bloodshed or the horrors wreaked on the whole world. Facts. If you guys agree with Val, embrace villainy, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. These people are the self-declared heroes. The only answer for heroism is villainy. So now here it says, and shout out to DJ Elmo. I don't know if DJ Elmo is watching, but this is the individual that DJ Elmo said that we should all look into. Antoinette Sandbach. All right. So everybody should do some research on this individual named Antoinette Sandbach. Antoinette Sandbach is the tip of the iceberg, and it will not be by getting her or anyone in the same position to accept and recognize their ancestors' acts as inhumane that we will become a more equal society. The change must happen at the foundations, parliament, schools, government, regardless of the party in power. It's never going to happen. And even if they do this, it's going to be defined by white people, which is never going to address the issues that black people have, which means what? So shout out to John. John says, click the smiley face to the left of the space where you type your message. It shows the green radiation emojis for Maxwell Jenkins. So now here it says, to this day, we see how unfair British society is. I'm tired of hearing from the average white Briton that this country is not called Great Britain for no reason. So I want you guys to understand that these people lean into this stuff. They lean into it. They don't shy away from it. They lean into it. Maybe it is time also to acknowledge the great waves of terror and destruction that have spread over the years. Alex Renton's arguments in favor of us feeling guilty for the historical phenomenon of slavery are muddled and irrational. Of course, we must abhor the crimes that were some of the worst in history of humanity. All right. So again, this is one of the reasons why these people are so shameful. They know that some of the crimes that their ancestors committed are some of the worst in history. And instead of attempting to reverse course and try to improve the situation that we live in now, they want to double down on it and act like nothing was done wrong. However, to suggest that the people of contemporary Britain should feel guilty for wrongs perpetrated 200 years before their birth and act on that guilt by way of apology or reparations is morally incoherent. Here's my question. How is that morally incoherent? It's consistent with Christianity. Sins of fathers are carried to their sons, especially if no atonement is made. So how is it morally incoherent? It's morally incoherent to right your wrongs. And let's talk about this. Wrongs perpetrated 200 years before birth are still benefiting those people to this day. So how does that work? And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you guys show some love for the third stream sponsor, MC, with the $4.99 super chat. Just got in the stream, but can't stay. Embrace villainy. T arrives today. Peace, BLR, and supporters. Yo, I'm glad you enjoyed the streams. I'm glad you enjoy Embrace Villainy, and I'm glad that you checked out one of those t-shirts. I hope you enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to DJ Elmo. Make sure you guys throw some radiation emojis in the chat. And also, which everybody in here for the most part is members, make sure you guys use those milestone chats. You know what I'm saying? You guys get a free super chat with your membership, so make sure you guys use it. A lot of time people forget to use it. I know for a fact because I'm one of the people that forgets to use it. So now here it says, unless you are a Christian believing in original sin, which I thought these people touted themselves on their Christian beliefs, the concept of moral responsibility as something that can be inherited is profoundly misjudged. How so? Let me ask you a question. If your father has cancer and your mother have cancer, do they get it? Shout out to TD Hip Hop Media for using his membership chat to say he's not going to use his membership chat. You know what I'm saying? To hold people, even in the slightest degree, responsible for what their ancestors may have been responsible for at more than 10 generations of distance is absurd. No, it's not. Because that means it's 10 generations of reinforcement of those same ideas. Also, many of those businesses are still in existence today and are still compiling on the wealth that they already got illegally and unfairly. And none of those businesses have been broken up in the name of justice, which is one of the reasons why I believe that reparations are owed. And I also believe that an antitrust-like breakup of white businesses that can trace their roots back to slavery should occur. That's not out of the realms of something that should be an expectation as part of a reparations package, to break up legacy white businesses that can trace their roots to slavery and Jim Crow. Would you guys agree? And shout out to John. He got some more instructions on how to use the emojis. Also, if you have an Android, click the emoji icon, then the search icon, and type in the word radiation, and it will pop up. There you go. And shout out to Tarek. I agree. And I agree with AB too. TD is a troll. Facts. They hold us responsible for our degenerate circles all the time and forever. So no. Facts. Super facts. It is worth noting that Antoinette Sandbach's ancestor, Samuel Sandbach, and his two sons were not minor players in the slave trade. So now the reason why these people come up with these nonsensical arguments is because these people are they're not as proud of their legacies as they would like you to believe. These people are very ashamed, and they're also very afraid. The records on the UCL Legacies of British Slavery database show them to have been associated with claims involving 5,082 enslaved people who were valued at 268,225 pounds. That's worth nearly $28 million today. So this individual, Antoinette Sandbach, had a $28 million head start. She's not guilty of anything. Let me ask you guys a question. If you're married to somebody and you're selling drugs, does the federal government take away all of your money, including whatever money your wife would be able to have? Or do they only take away the drug money? Last time I checked, they seized all of your assets. But wait a minute, your wife wasn't involved in selling drugs. She benefited from it illegally, didn't tell authorities. So these people's arguments of not paying reparations are not even consistent with their own system of law. And one of the reasons that is because their system of law is illegitimate. So now here it says, moreover, she attempts to disassociate herself from the legacy of her ancestors' involvement in the slave trade, the more attention she draws to it. It is interesting that the upper classes are usually happy to benefit from the wealth of their forebears and to accept inherited status, but are often less keen to bear any responsibility for the means by which that wealth and status was gained. So we're in the UK, they're dealing with the same thing that we're dealing with here. Okay. So everybody drop some radiation emoji in the chat for Terrence. Okay. Because Terrence dropped this article in the Discord, and I think that this is a really good article. Okay. So we talked about the migrant crisis earlier today. But this article here is basically, it's an opinion piece. Instead of reparations, expand opportunities for blacks. No, reparations is the opportunity for blacks. 80% of white Americans, including Jimmy Dore and Bernie Sanders, oppose reparations, but 77% of blacks support them, which is sad because it should be 100%. These people want to tell you how they plan on making things right, which is ultimately them telling you that they have no plan on making things right. We're going to come up with nonsense and you're going to accept it, is basically what this means. Okay. Let me ask you guys a question. Just based off the title, is this one of the reasons why extra political means are necessary? If this isn't evidence that extra political means are necessary, I don't know what else I can show. I don't know what else I can show. So now here it says, from criminal justice reform, which I do not believe that criminal justice reform should ever be mentioned in terms of making the legacy of slavery right, because for one, it doesn't address slavery. For two, it doesn't address anything economic. And for three, criminal justice is not something that directly deals with black people. Criminal justice deals with criminals. Right? Would you guys agree? If you guys agree with that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. From criminal justice reform to how to best teach American history, race continues to be one of the most contentious issues in American politics. So these people have to think about whether they want to teach the truth or not. And again, this is only a white people issue. We have to think about how we represent our ancestors in history. Not us. We don't have to do that. On one side of this volatile debate, a number of cities and states have begun debating reparations, a form of payment to African Americans to compensate for slavery and other past mistreatment. If you ask me, the conversation has come too late. It's time for extra political means. If you guys agree that the conversation is too little, too late, a day late, and a couple $100 trillion too short, Give me a thumbs up in the comment section. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down. So now here it says, most recently, a California task force issued a report calling for cash payments of up to $1.2 million to millions of African Americans living or who have lived in the state. This closely follows a similar recommendation in San Francisco, where the local board of supervisors unanimously endorsed an even more extravagant proposal to provide a one-time $5 million payment to every Black resident of the city, along with other benefits. While the idea may seem far-fetched, we should not dismiss reparations out of hand. Although some proposals are difficult to take seriously, the idea that America owes a moral debt to African Americans for centuries of maltreatment is a long-standing one. Now, this is not a popular idea, and most white people believe that Black people should be treated the way that we were treated in the 1960s simply because of the color of our skin. They agree with how things were back then, and that's one of the reasons why they consider that America great, and they want to make America great again. The past informs the present, right? So here we are with this nonsense. These people making false claims. They claim to be people of history. The past informs the present. So what happens when you have these people taking the past out of the education system? Like you cannot make this many double negatives up. You know what I'm saying? You can't make this many double negatives up. These enduring inequalities contribute to the reason 26% of African Americans live in poverty. So for every 100 Black people, 26 of them live in poverty. For every 100 Black people, 26 Black people live in poverty. Now, all of these things that people complain about as far as with Black people, crime and this, that, and the other, do you guys think that that statistic has anything to do with it? Now, let me ask you guys a question, and I don't know if TD is still in here or not. Are Black people disproportionately represented in people living in poverty? And the next question is it a similar number to how Black people are disproportionately represented by people who commit crimes? That's the next question. And just so you guys know, somebody must be offended that I'm doing a members only stream because they unsubscribed from the channel. I think I've got like maybe 3 membership streams up. I've only done 3 members only streams. And somebody's that mad that they unsubscribe. Just got to make sure everybody is aware of that. If you guys look, you'll see that the number of subscribers that I had changed from 4.44K to 4.43K since this live stream. Like, really? 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 These enduring inequalities contribute to the reason 26% of African Americans live in poverty, compared with just 10% of white Americans, and why 36% of African American children are poor. Poverty rates for African Americans exceeded those for white Americans, regardless of education, work effort, or family structure. So now that's interesting. What does that imply? What's going on with it? Shout out to Bronze of God in the building. What's good with you, bro? What does this imply? Facts. Facts, Terrence. It implies a wealth gap based on race. It implies disproportionate distribution of financial assets. Disproportionate distribution of financial assets. Of course, the United States has undertaken significant efforts to address the history of unequal treatment for African Americans. Here's my question. What have they done? How? Anytime they ever say something like this, there's always a one-liner and then never any follow-up examples. So let's just run through that right here, right now. What are these examples of specific Black policies to specifically address the disparities that slavery created within the ranks of Black people and Jim Crow and sundown towns and all of that? What specific has been done? Yet we have not eliminated disparities in economic opportunity. That's because the effort has not been made to do that. Moreover, paying reparations would not be an imposition of collective white guilt on Americans. And again, this is white people attempting to try to control the conversation. Literally nobody has ever said anything about white guilt. Most people, when talking about reparations, refer to the United States government. Now, white people are revealing themselves that the Constitution was addressed to them, which is one of the reasons why they feel guilt. When we talk about this, they understand that the government has deputized them as a part of the government, which is exactly what the Constitution was. The Constitution literally made white people an extension of the United States government. Rather, they offer restitution to Black Americans for explicit wrongs perpetrated or condemned by the government. This is common sense. And what you have are a bunch of white people in competition for an Oscar or an Emmy as the best actor. We don't need to explain any of this stuff. This article right here, Fox, this is white people white-splaining to other white people. None of this is necessary on our behalf. Literally everybody knows that the government wrote those laws. White people are the ones that attempt to make it about white people, which it is. I mean, it is. But we say the government. They're the ones that throw themselves into it. Well, if you want to throw yourself into it, that's fine. Whatever. We're not gonna talk around it or not talk about it because it hurts your feelings. That's on you. Who cares? Nobody cares. I don't care about your feelings. To cite a common example, if someone's car is damaged by a pothole that the city failed to repair, the car owner can seek restitution for his or her damages, even if that requires taxes paid by residents who had nothing to do with road maintenance. So again, I want you guys to understand this right here is actually a very logical argument. And this is coming from Fox. This is written on the Fox News website. But these people will sit here and try to act like they don't understand this stuff. So what people should really understand is that these people are just trolling, and what they're doing is they're attempting to exert authority. The government action in the treatment of African Americans likewise imposes a collective responsibility. However, whatever the moral justifications for restitution, reparations are an ineffective way to produce real, lasting improvements for African Americans. Now, that's interesting, right? Why is that? They didn't say that about Japanese Americans that got reparations here. What it is because these reparations that black people would be getting would cut the competition and cut the racial wealth gap and somewhat cause damage to the current power structure. And these people have become comfortable in their privilege, and they don't want anything even approaching causing any harm or any decrease in their privilege. So they're going to automatically attempt to try to talk it down, which these are illegitimate talking points, because there's been multiple groups of people that have gotten reparations, and all of those multiple groups of people have never given a testimony saying how those reparations hurt them. They've only given testimony saying how those reparations helped them. The practical difficulties of any large-scale reparations program would be virtually impossible to overcome, involving serious questions about who should be compensated, which that's not a question that needs to be answered unless we're asking it directly to pieces of paper that come from ownership invoices from plantations that have listings of slaves on them, and we trace their descendants back to the direct blood descendant. How much and in what way? None of these questions are necessary questions. These are attempted derangement questions to attempt to try to confuse and cloud the conversation. This is literally what Ron DeSantis was doing when it comes to his responsibility in the Dollar General shooting. All of a sudden, I just don't know anything. I'm supposed to be superior, but I don't know anything. So let's check this video out. Might be a commercial here.
So much. Meantime, progressive lawmakers Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman spending their 4th of July holiday trashing America. Bush tweeting the Declaration of Independence was written by enslavers and didn't recognize black people as human.
Now, notice when they talk about this, notice how the white people don't say that this is false. You're just supposed to be outraged that somebody simply mentioned this, but notice how no one ever says that this is false.
Today is a great day to demand reparations now. And Bowman says this July 4th, we must remember that we stand on stolen land, toiled by enslaved Africans, and recommit ourselves to the fight for freedom, equality, and justice so that these ideals are accessible to everyone, not just a privileged few.
So now here's the question. Despite the fact that this is coming from Bowman and Cori Bush, who are some Democrat shills, was what they said in the tweet true? That's the question.
Patrice Onwuka is the director of the Center for Economic Opportunity at the Independent Women's Forum, and she joins me now. You know, this is such there's so many ways I could take this conversation, but I think the obvious first question is when people are talking about what ought to be done to restore the descendants of those who were brought here against their will. I think this is one of those conversations that are great in theory, and yet in practicality, you're talking about paying people off. I got to tell you about the mayor over Newark. He's calling for reparations. You heard Bush and others calling for reparations. I've heard you say this is damaging to Black Americans. Why is that?
Yeah.
So have you ever heard of anybody fixing a past wrong and somehow that damages them? Now, here's my question. How stupid and insane do these people sound? Now, my question is, why do so many people go silent when these idiots come up with these nonsensical talking points? That's the question. How many times have people asked people these silly questions and they've just went radio silent? How many times has that happened? So my question is, why does such stupid shit stomp people so easily? People go silent. In 2024, I'd advise people to not go silent. Right now, I'd advise people to smash that like button so we can get our 100 likes. We got 77 and we got 46 people watching. If everybody smashes that like button and hits that bell, we will get our 100 likes. And also remember, this is members only. So shout out to the members. Once this stream is done, only members will be able to watch the replay. It's not anywhere else. It's not on Rumble. It's not on Facebook. It's not on Twitter. It's not anywhere. No clips, no nothing.
Kevin, you know, it's interesting because I think we've seen reparations tried and failed before through the Great Society programs. Those programs were meant to uplift all families, but
so if they were meant to uplift all families, automatically they weren't reparations because all families weren't descendants of slaves. So there's that. Right? So now these Great Society programs, these are some of the things that Vivek Ramaswamy tries to attempt to say have been harmful to black people. These are things that black people have been cut out of. Things that we've been cut out of can't be harmful to us. If somebody unleashes carbon monoxide mist into a house and I'm not allowed to go into that house, there's no way that that carbon monoxide can affect me because I'm not inside the house breathing it in. These are idiotic talking points. Anybody that has an ounce of logic and information processing ability can easily debunk any of this, right? So the expectation should always be that these people will try to use deterrent methods like nonsensical babble to attempt to derail a conversation about reparations. The question has to be asked, why do people act like they don't know how to deal with this kind of nonsense? That's the question that really needs to be addressed. Why do people act like they don't know what time it is?
Because I think we've seen reparations tried and failed before through the Great Society programs.
Now, is that true? Is this woman being honest? If that's true, give me a thumbs up. If that's not true, give me a thumbs down. Now, what I want you guys to do is I want you to answer this question. Why is it that when it comes to misinformation about black political issues, as well as about black history, why is it that social media, artificial intelligence never provides a fact-checking mechanism? But they'll provide a fact-checking mechanism about the 2020 election and C-19.
Those programs were meant to uplift all families, but particularly black families. Unfortunately, it subsidized unproductive or even counterproductive behavior that undermined the black family. I mean, frankly, it led to a lot more single-parent households, and the gains that were being made leading up to the 1960s, when you saw crime reduction in the black community, when you saw home ownership rates rising, wealth starting to accumulate, that was eroded with Great Society programs. So this idea of redistribution again, from non-oppressors to non-victims today, I don't see.
If you're benefiting from racism, if you're benefiting from white supremacy, if you have the power and ability to deny history, you're an oppressor, period. If you're getting wealth, if you're getting legacy wealth, from businesses that originated and got their start and roots in slavery, you're an oppressor. Would you agree or would you disagree? They have two black people on here talking about this nonsense. These black people right here should have their parents identified, and we need to ask their parents what kind of values you taught your child to be this kind of pathetic piece of garbage that you actually could have kept inside of your own body. Who raises people like this is the question. Seriously, and this is a serious question. I ask this question all the time when it comes to talking about these kind of people. Who raises these people? Who created and raised these people here? Now, I don't know what just happened.
So much. Meantime, progressive.
I don't know what just happened, but the video like skipped and the page went to another page. So here we are, we're back.
Again, from non-oppressors to non-victims today, I don't see as the way to really uplift Black communities, Hispanic communities, even poor white communities. That's where we need opportunity. That's where we need to.
Why would poor white communities be in the conversation? Poor white communities were not chattel slaves. Why would they even be mentioned? Who gives a shit about them in regards to this? Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, we got the 5th stream sponsor. Make sure you guys throw some members only radiation emoji in the chat. Shout out to my man Maxwell Jenkins with the $2 super chat. He says, if these folks were sincere, they'd give back the money. Facts, which is one of the reasons why we have to take active measures legally to start working towards chipping away at their businesses. Their businesses need to be under constant legal attack. The businesses, the trust funds, all of that stuff needs to be targeted. You know what I'm saying? And then environment needs to be created where they wish they had addressed the reparations issue earlier. But then they had to be let know that it's too late. Now this is the battle you're going to fight.
Reduce the roadblocks that make it difficult for people to access education, quality education. And I'm talking about school choice, or to access opportunities in the workforce, whether that's through higher ed or frankly through, apprenticeships and starting small businesses.
Yeah, and you got to rebuild the family. I think it all begins there. I mentioned Newark's mayor. Let me share just a bit of video here and get you to react on the other side. Listen to this.
Reparations. New Jersey must acknowledge, end, and repair the harms it's caused to its Black communities by deeply investing in the very areas where there have been generations worth of systemic disinvestment. This can look like funding for reparative policies.
No. Why would you? Funding for reparative policies is giving the same government that committed to race atrocities the money. Why would you do that?
And programs and direct payments through reparations.
No, direct payments only. And breaking up white businesses.
We can make the 2 New Jerseys one.
See, he said something really key there. Make the 2 New Jerseys one. I think that separation is what really bothers a lot of people. I know we don't have much time. I'd love to get 10 seconds of reaction to what you just heard.
Yeah, this idea of dividing people along racial lines when really the divide is along class lines.
So now on Fox News, I want you guys to pay attention. On Fox News, they're sounding like white progressives.
And I think very often
now you know why Jimmy Dore has been on Fox News so much, because on Fox News, they're talking progressive politics. On Fox News here, we're listening to these people sound like Jimmy Dore, Revolutionary Blackout, Breonna Joy Gray, Sabby Sabs, Cornel West, which is one of the reasons why Laura Ingraham loves her some Cornel West.
time. I'd love to get 10 seconds of reaction to what you just heard.
Yeah, this idea of dividing people along racial lines when really the divide
Yeah.
is along class lines.
The divisions were created by white people along race lines to create class lines. There's a contract called Asiento de Negros that came out, I believe, in the 1500s in Spain that literally discussed the skin color based, race based class system that was pervasive throughout Europe, coming in contact with non-white people. Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you guys show some love to Denise Scales with the $20 super chat. Definitely appreciate it. She is the 6th stream sponsor, so make sure you guys show her some love and throw some radiation emoji in the chat for her. That's a great question, Terrence. And let me ask this question to everybody in the comment section. Who was in the 3/5 human class? It's a great question. You know what I'm saying? That's a great question.
And I think very often that gets lost, the nuance there. There are a lot of poor people who are white and who are not.
They're not victims of slavery. They're not victims of Jim Crow. They were not blocked out of the economic system in the United States up until the 1960s. None of what you're saying applies. Listen, I want you guys to pay very close attention. These are 2 black people. Who raises people like this? What should happen to parents when we find out who raised these people? That's my question for you guys.
On non-black, but there are also a lot of well-to-do, middle-class black families, Hispanic families, Asian families.
Right.
And so,
what does any of what she's talking about have to do with being a descendant of slaves? Being a victim of redlining, having a freeway ran through your house and having your house taken through eminent domain. What does that have to do with any of that? Facts, Torian. Not a damn thing. Facts. Hey, if you guys agree that that's what should happen to these people's parents, give me give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down. Oh, man. Most proposals on the table amount to little more than tax and spend wealth redistribution schemes that will not dramatically expand economic opportunities. Economic opportunities won't be expanded because white people have a monopoly on the global market, on global businesses. That's why. Which is one of the reasons why part of reparations package needs to be an antitrust attack on those legacy businesses. Ryan said the brick. Torian said the chair. Tia said the chair. I'm down with both. I'm down with both. A long-term fix to the plight of poorer African Americans will require more than just doing what has been done before while rebranding it as reparations. Honestly, the only people that have ever rebranded reparations are white people. The very people that quote Martin Luther King all the time, that just truncate the part of his speech about reparations. You know what I'm saying? Most significantly, the tax or debt necessary to pay the billions or trillions of dollars in reparations will seriously damage the economy and reduce economic growth for every American. You mean like the Biden presidency, paying Ukraine, paying for migrants? You mean like that? Actually, it wouldn't. Actually, paying black people this money would expand the American economy because black people don't have any businesses. So initially, when the reparations are first paid, in order for us to develop our economies, we would have to pay for our raw materials through white businesses, which would put our reparations money back into the United States. So again, that's another false argument. Where the hell would the black, or you think that all we're going to do is just buy shit from China? Where would the money go? You mean people aren't going to go to Walmart? People aren't going to go to Amazon? People aren't going to go to Target? Everybody's just going to order some African chewing sticks and shit, and that's just going to be the end of it. Seriously? Do you hear how these people insult your intelligence? Everybody in this chat is very intelligent. Never allow anybody to insult your intelligence like this without making them pay. So now here it says African Americans are unlikely to gain from the higher employment, slower wage growth, and less entrepreneurship that will result. Why would less entrepreneurship result? Entrepreneurship will be stagnant as a result of white people and the white monopoly on businesses and market sectors. Let me ask you guys a question. Is there any sector of any market in the global economy that black people dominate in? That's my question for you guys. So now here it says the goal of any reparative policy should be to move poor. Look at this. The goal of any reparative policy should be to move poor people of color into the mainstream of a growing economy, not to slow economic growth itself. Why would it slow economic growth itself? And why are we talking about people of color? So again, this article is all over the place, right? And I'm going to tell you guys this. This right here is one of the reasons why these people are terrified. These people are terrified to come on platforms like ours. In the entire life of my YouTube channel, I can guarantee you, I can almost put money on it, that you will never, ever see any one of these kind of people attempt to come here and have a conversation. And instead of using the honest reason that they'd get their head bit off and all those little veins would be squirting like a fire hose got busted, the excuse would be, well, you know, they don't have enough subscribers, utilizing the YouTube value chain of content suppression to attempt to delegitimize the message. These people do not want that nightmare of what they would endure with during 15, 20, a half an hour of abuse over here. Because that's exactly what it would be, is abuse. So now here it says, finally, we need to recognize that reparations are a deeply divisive issue. Actually, we don't need to recognize that at all. White people need to recognize that they caused this entire issue. That's the only thing that needs to be recognized. If somebody deleted somebody that I love, and I said they deserve the death penalty, I guarantee you that their family's not going to agree, and that's going to be a deeply divisive issue. I don't care. You killed one of my family members. You got to go. I don't care if it's a divisive issue. Guess what? This country fought a civil war before. Regardless of how divisive the issue is, who's responsible for the issue? Who is responsible for this entire issue? Who bears all of the responsibility for it? That's who needs to clean it up. However, they don't want to clean it up. And they've made it very clear that they don't want to clean it up. And since they've made it very clear that they don't want to clean it up, what that means is that they've exited the conversation, which means now it's time for us to mobilize extra political means and utilize the extraction method to take what's ours and make sure that we reiterate that we've exited the conversation and we're coming for our shit. Which is one of the reasons why we need to start working into creating these value chains. We need to start practicing networking, business practices together, understanding how politics works with business in order to create favorable business environments that can then reroute the money back to our grassroots politicians in order to politicians to protect us, utilizing lockout, blockout techniques to keep other people's hands off of our money and off of our shit. They think that talking about reparations is divisive. Wait until we get our politics mobilized and we start practicing lockout, blockout. You think that shit is divisive? We'll show you some real improper fractions then. Kamala Harris talking about how much she liked those Venn diagrams. We'll show you what mutual exclusivity really means. Finally, look at this. Look at this. Finally, we need to recognize that reparations are a deeply divisive issue, in part because the people who would be asked to pay for the sins of the past were not directly responsible for them. Guess what? Even the people who are receiving reparations would still be paying for them. My tax dollars would also go for reparations. What are you talking about? Every black person who gets reparations would also be paying into it. What are you talking about? We've been paying into it. These people literally believe in their simple minds that black people don't work. None of us pay into the tax system. Yet there's hundreds of thousands of migrants that are here in the United States being sent all over the United States by the very party of people who literally sits there and says that black people don't pay taxes, and they're shipping the actual people that don't pay taxes all over the United States. %80 of white Americans oppose reparations. 77% of black Americans support them. So because white people have a problem with it, forget the 77% of black people. I don't think so. Yeah, white people aren't the standardizing correct or not correct determinant. Sorry. While most white Americans oppose reparations regardless of age, socioeconomic status, education, or political affiliation. Additionally, a majority of Asian Americans and Latinos also oppose reparations. Who cares? They're immigrants. They're not part of American history except for in the recent history. They don't even know American history. You got Vivek Ramaswamy, who expects people to take a citizenship test. He's just barely a citizen and doesn't know anything about American history. Vivek Ramaswamy can't name 2 race massacres, including the ones that movies were made out of. Yet this is an individual that wants to make people take a civics test. While politics need not be a zero-sum, political capital is not infinite. It is a quixotic push for reparations. The most productive use of that capital. Is Ukraine the most productive use of capital? Are all of the vacations that government officials go on taxpayer dollars the best use of that capital? Is revitalizing rundown hotels in New York City for violent migrants to stay in the best use of that capital? Is welfare for Owsley County, Kentucky the best use of that capital? Are meth rehab clinics on every corner and safe injection sites the best use of that capital? We can ask about the best use of capital with many situations. All of the situations that I just named don't put money back into the already suffering American economy. And mind you, let's not forget why the economy is suffering, because of a legacy of rich white male presidents who have literally been given everything that they have, so they don't have money management skills. They only have money spending skills, which is why the United States is in debt. The debt of the United States is a cultural problem. There are wiser policies that will go further towards overcoming the downstream effects of slavery and segregation, leveling the playing field, and increasing opportunity for African Americans, especially those at the bottom of the economic ladder today. So again, let's just throw this out here, right? Cash payments. They're not going to say anything about cash payments. Breaking up the white businesses is free. Let's not talk about any cash payments, and let's talk about which businesses we should break up first, because that's free. Guarantee you that conversation won't happen. And what that tells you about that conversation not happening is that this is a hamster wheel. This is a control thing. The purpose of these conversations is to attempt to confuse people in order to attempt to continue to maintain control. That's all it's about. Facts. Ohio Edison, companies like that, First Energy, break them up. Dominion, East Ohio Gas, break them up. The legacy AT&T companies, all of the subsidiaries that are branched off of AT&T, break them up. Railroad companies, break them up. Right? That's free. Break them up. And black people should get the first dibs on 50% of the ownership shares. Now, that hasn't been proposed, but I think we need to get people talking about it. And the reason why I feel that we should get people talking about it is not to attempt to derail cash payment reparations conversations, because cash payment reparation conversations should absolutely happen. And I support cash payment reparations 100%. However, I believe that breaking up white businesses would not only enhance the effect of cash payment reparations, but also those businesses were built illegally. Those businesses need to be punished as well. And also, those businesses are still around today. You know, how does slavery affect anybody that's still alive today? Well, corporations are artificial people, and those people are still alive today, right? Such reforms include eliminating exclusionary zoning, reforming the police, and reducing mass incarceration, none of which address the legacy of slavery, none of which address legacy lockout, blockout. None of those address the lack of access to the American capital and American financial system that racism and white supremacy were designed to keep black people from accessing. Yeah, facts, DJ. Educational institutes like Harvard and Yale, religious institutes like the Roman Catholic Church and the Mormons. Importantly, these are reforms that, while particularly beneficial to African Americans, which they're not particularly beneficial to African Americans. It's been proven that none of these things helped African Americans, and their assistance to African Americans has not overshadowed their assistance to other people, like affirmative action, how it affects and assists white people more than any other group of people, have added advantage of helping low income and struggling Americans regardless of race, which doesn't help African Americans because African Americans didn't start out on an equal footing. So helping people equally, addressing problems that they don't have that are specific to African Americans, are actually more damaging because all you're doing is expanding the racial wealth gap. There is clearly a moral debt owed to African Americans, but reparations are not the way to pay it. At this point, this is all entertainment because my crew is coming with extra political means and the extraction method because the time for talk is over. Just like this members only stream. So if you missed it, you might want to shell out 99 cents. If not, I hope you catch the next one and you got those alerts on. So I definitely appreciate each and every one of you guys coming through and checking this out. I hope you enjoyed it. Shout out to everybody who came through. Shout out to the stream sponsors. We got my man John Guillory. We got Lloyd Sky 9. We got MC. We got Troll D Hip Hop Media. You know what I'm saying? Who else we got? We got Maxwell Jenkins. And we got Denise Scales. All right. So again, shout out to everybody. Shout out to the members. Definitely appreciate each and every one of you guys. Don't forget, make sure you got the notifications hit for that stream tonight. If you're not part of the Discord, make sure you join the Discord, and I will catch you all on the next video. All right. Peace.